with this strategy, you can use this to pass your prop firm and make money for yourself. Now, what you should first look out for is your market structure. Your market structure. Then the next thing you should look out for is a failed order block, also known as a breaker block. A failed order block, also known as a block. I use FB to represent my, meaning a failed order block or a breaker block. And other thing you need to know is what? Liquidity. I use dollar signs to represent my liquidity. There have to be a liquidity protecting the failed order block, and there are two rules guiding this strategy. So let's dive into our chart. Using our chart, firstly, you have to understand market structure for you to be able to use this strategy. Now, one thing you should be looking out for is a market structure shift for this strategy. And remember, for every market structure shift, there is always a new order block that will be created, and there will be a failed order block that will also be created during a shift in market structure. This is the new order block that has been created, right? And let me use this to show you guys the failed order block. Failed order block, also known as a breaker block. When you hear a breaker block, it's just an order block that failed to hold price, is a breaker block. So this is the order block that was supposed to hold price to the upside, but it failed to hold price. If you look at it clearly, you notice that price did what? Price break through it, so it has failed to hold price, is automatically converted to a breaker block. So the next thing you should look out for is a liquidity protecting that breaker block. For this strategy, we will not be using order block. There's a strategy we'll use order block, order block with, but for this strategy, we will not be using order block. We'll be using a breaker block. So there have to be a liquidity protecting that breaker block, right? And the liquidity is the first pushback after the shift in market structure, the first pullback, and that first pullback must retrace at least 50% of that initial pullback. It must retrace for you to confirm that as your liquidity point. It must retrace at least 50%. But for this chart, you notice that this pullback retraces 100% of this first leg, right? So for this one, it retraces 100%. Then what you should do next is you mark out your liquidity point. You mark out your liquidity point, and I represent my liquidity with LQ. But most times I represent it with dollar sign, just for you guys to understand. Let me represent it with dollar sign. So that is for our liquidity, and this is a breaker block, right? This is a breaker block. Right? So this is a breaker block, and the dollar signs there is our liquidity. So what you should wait for next is what? Price to come back to your breaker block after creating the liquidity, and that is exactly what happened there. Now let me use this to explain more. So you see, after it has retraced on about 100% for this chart, but remember the rule is it for you to retrace at least 50%, but for this one it retraces 100%, almost 100%. So after that retracement, you mark out what? Your liquidity, and wait for price to come back to take out that liquidity and come to your entry point. That when it comes to your entry point, that is when you take your trade. Then take it down. At least your return of investment should be at least 5R. That is 5 return of investment. That if you are risking 1%, you should be expecting to gain 5% of your account size. Do you understand? So this is just the strategy model, and let me show you guys how to get entry how to get entry and where to put your SL for this strategy. Now, as I said, for you to know where to put your TP, you have to understand market structure. You have to look back to the previous reaction of price, where price has reacted more and where price might likely go to. That should be your TP. That should be your TP. But the most important thing is what? Your SL, where you should, your SL and your entry point, because your entry point will define how much you'll be risking, and your entry point and SL will define how much you'll be risking for the trade. Then the TP should be, you will be the one to identify or decide where to put your TP. But most times you use your previous chart, the previous price action to determine where to put your TP. Now, and most times what I use is where liquidity is, where the next place price will be going to grab liquidity will be my TP. But for this strategy, where you should be expecting to enter from, sorry guys, where you should be expecting to enter from is where, if the order block has a weak candle like this, your entry point should be where at least 50% of that weak candle, so that you will not miss out. So that you not miss out from the entry, because most times price might not get to your order block, to the body of your candle, that is that red candle that was formed. So, and your SL should be slightly above the body of that red candle, slightly above the body of that red candle. Then you extend your position to wherever you feel you want to put your TP. But what I do look out for is the next liquidity area price will likely go to. So this is for this strategy. And if you look closely, that also happened here. Okay, let me adjust this. Another example around there. This is another example around there. Let me use this too so that you guys can figure it out easily. As I said, there have to be a market structure shift, and this is a market structure shift, right? The market, this was another block that was supposed to hold price, but what happened? Market break through it, then it automatically turns to a breaker block, right? So like, let's mark it out as our breaker block. Let's mark it out as our breaker block. So remember, the way you mark your breaker block out is that candle. Make sure the candle, you are able to cover that candle. So most times it will give you a tiny SL, most times it will give you a large SL. So it depends on how it depends on the trade setup. So most times you risk less, and most times you not just risking less, most times just give you high SL. So you might decide to like reduce your lot size or increase your lot size. So what happened here is it gives us a larger SL, right? But that is still a breaker block. What you should do is at least take the entry to be at least 50% of that wick, the wick of that red candle, right? So now our second criteria is it has to do what? Give us a liquidity, which is the first pullback after the market structure shift. And where is the first pullback? This is the first pullback. This point was the first pullback, because after it pulled back, what happened? Market retraced back to the point where it pulled back. So let me use these two, guys. Let me use this so you guys will understand it. Now, after it pulled back, market did what? Retrace back. You know, the rule is that it must retrace back at least 50% or 100%. But for this one, it retraces more than 100%. But that is not the point. The point is that as long as it retraces back, that point is your liquidity automatically. So you just do what? You mark it out. As long as after retracing back, it retraces back above 50% of that initial pullback, right? So what you should just do is just mark out that first pullback as your what? As your liquidity. And what did I say? I use my $sign to represent the liquidity. And the next thing you should do is you wait for price to come back there to your entry, and let's set our 2 and know what price do later on. This model work very well, guys. If you understand this model, with this model you can pass your profit challenge, you can make money for yourself, very cool money. And this is the kind of model with some other confluences that I use in getting sniper entry. If you join my Telegram group, you will see the way we do it right there. So this is how you are supposed to enter this trade. As I said, your entry point should be 50% of that, the previous red candle, the red candle that formed the failed order block. Let me use this to tell 50%. If you look at the wick of that candle, this is the wick of that candle, right? Now 50%, which is half of that wick, should be your where you should put your entry point. And sometimes if the candlestick does not have wick, just put it on top of the body of the candlestick. But for this one, it has wick, so our entry, that is why our entry is about 50% of that wick. This is the strategy, my own model, and it has been working for me for a very long time. So that is how you should look for your entry. Then your SL should be above, slightly above the body of the candle, slightly above the body of the candle, because sometimes sometimes spread depends on the broker you use. So this is how you should set your SL and wait for price. You can set a limit order, then wait for price to come and trigger you in. Then the same model, you look for the next place price might go to. That should be where you should set your TP. In our next video, I might explain how to set TP, but for now, your entry point is what matters, your entry point and your SL, because you have to be sure of what you are risking and know when to enter the trade. So if you look at what happened, let's check what happened. See what happened. Market did what? Come to that point, and when it comes to that point, our entry point, what happened? It triggered us in and hit our TP. This thing is very simple. It's just for you to just keep on repeating the model and train your eye to figure it out. And remember, you have to understand market structure for you to be able to use this strategy. If you don't understand market structure, this strategy might fail you. So this is why you need to understand market structure before using this strategy. But believe me, guys, this strategy works. Like, it works 88% of the time. And also, if you don't understand much of what I just taught, you can let me know what you don't get in the comment section. And if you want to learn more about this strategy, you can join our Telegram channel. Remain blessed. This is SBM Forest.